Good evening, CIS family. Now you haven't even heard us yet. You might be clapping a little prematurely. No, we are so excited to be having a live event with all of you. I appreciate you so much that we were able to stay socially distant between families, just so that we can all be here and celebrate these amazing students who have persevered through so much these last 20 months. It's been nearly 2 years since we have had our last concert in this space. So we are so excited to be able to make live music for you. The last time that you saw these beautiful people, they were fourth graders and they were playing hot cross buns. They were squeaking and squawking on 5 notes, and boy have they grown over these last 2 years. So we are so proud of them, and I don't have words. So without further ado, our 6th grade band. So that first song, Star Fire March, is kind of a rite of passage for 6th graders. We always enjoy playing in 6th grade, so we hope you enjoy that as well. So our next song, Along Came a Spider. Imagine Little Miss Muffet packing her picnic, sitting down with her curds and whey, but along came that spider and sat down beside her and frightened Miss Muffet away. So I think at some point in the song, our Miss Muffet is going to realize that spider's next to her, and you'll see how she reacts. So we hope you enjoy Along Came a Spider. So keeping in our insect section of the band program, I guess, we had along came a spider, but there are all sorts of more creepy crawlies that give me the heebie-jeebies. I still remember the first time that I went out west and they told me scorpions were a thing and I needed to check my shoes, and that kind of freaked me out a little bit. So here's our song, Creepy Crawlies, and you'll hear the bug motive often in the clarinets. So for really listen to that. Actually, clarinets. Clarinets. Could I hear the da 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 da? I know, putting them on the spot. So could I hear that? Your name, please? 1, 2, here, there you go. So whenever you hear that, you can picture some sort of creepy insecty thing crawling on you, which may or may not creep you out. So we'll let our 6th graders sit down, and then we'll be starting Creepy Crawlies with our 7th grade band. Do you think they squashed the bug? I think he still had another friend that came by there. So, and I do want to also say we had a few 6th graders who joined us in on that song. We had Elliot here on bass, we had Caitlin on flute, and we also had Shane on tenor sax. And I have one little setup piece while those 3 6th graders go to their seats. So. E-IF. Thank you. Maybe another year. Did anybody bring a pet with a ticket? Okay. No. So, our 8th grade band, we were really fortunate. We are part of a group called the Black Cat Consortium. And what this is, the composer of this piece, the Black Cat, Randall Standridge, he opened it up to band directors to have kind of first crack at this. All good? Okay. To have first crack at this piece. It's a brand new composed piece of music. He came up with the idea actually on Friday the 13th in August, and wrote the music very, very quickly. He was super inspired by like In the Hall of the Mountain King, which many of us have heard in so many movies, and the style of Danny Elfman from The Nightmare Before Christmas, and he wrote this music, The Black Cat, and he apparently is very superstitious, and the throwing the salt over the shoulder, and the broken mirror, really was an inspiration for this piece, and he gave a small group of band directors an opportunity to premiere it. So we are one of the first schools in the world to perform this piece of music. Many of the schools that are in this consortium, they're having their concerts next week, so we're probably within the top first 5 schools that have ever played this piece. We're really excited to perform it for you, and this is The Black Cat, which I conveniently called Ida because that's the name of my black cat. So. So our last piece of the evening from our 8th graders will be a song called Dr. Rockenstein, or Rockenstein. Rockenstein. I jumped into my German pronunciation, I should say. So Dr. Rockenstein, some of you might remember back when they were in 4th grade, these 8th graders actually played a song called Dr. Rock. So when I pulled it out, they were like, "Oh, Dr. Rock, we totally remember that." And then they quickly realized this was a whole nother level. So we hope you enjoy Dr. Rockenstein. It's been a long day. Dr. Rockenstein from our 8th grade band.
The 0 and 9 periods are an exciting new program where CMSD students can enjoy additional learning time when it comes to art, music, physical education, and more. Joining me now to talk about this program is Jeffrey Allen, the Director of Arts Education. Well, welcome, Jeffrey.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. So the periods 0 and 9 obviously indicate that this is like before and after program. Well, just talk about what kids and families can expect with the 0 and 9 period.
Sure. One of the most exciting things about the 0-9 period is the opportunity for scholars to go deep in either art, music, or physical education up to 5 days a week at any given school. That's happening across 60 of our K-8 buildings right now, which is super exciting. So they might have the opportunity to have their middle school band program, or a choir, or a show choir, or a theatrical production, or a running club, or a lifting club, a yoga class, an animation club, a comic book club, a ceramics course. If you can dream it, we can make it happen.
That is amazing. So do the children really indicate what type of interest they want to happen at the schools, or is the school offering it to the students?
It's a good marriage of the two, based on what the skill set of the amazing educators in each building, what they can bring to the table, what perhaps a community partner can bring in to supplement and add to, coupled with what the student interests are. I mean, obviously, if a group of students wanted to do underwater basket weaving, I'm just making that up for fun, and nobody was qualified to do that, we probably wouldn't offer it right away. But the idea is like having that nice synergy between the two of what we know we can offer and what people are looking to get. It also gives us some aspirations. If there's something we know that the community really wants, who are the people we need to have at the table to make that happen?
Wonderful. And you just mentioned our amazing community partners. Can you just talk about some of them that are offering their skills and their talents to our students?
Sure. Before I do that, though, I have to give an amazing shout out to so many community partners that over a year worked with me on developing this plan that we're now executing and making reality for our scholars. They've been with us every step of the way. So, partners like Cleveland Orchestra, Cleveland Museum of Art, Cleveland Public Theater, Playhouse Square, Center for Arts Inspired Learning, Dancing Classrooms. The list can go on and on and on, and of course, once you start listing, you accidentally left somebody out. So nothing but love for our amazing community that is working with us in the past, in the present, and in the future to make sure that this plan to make robust arts happen for our scholars continues and moves forward.
Right, and it really all began, I know you said the planning was a year in the making, but it was really implemented during the summer learning experience. Well, let's take a look at some of the programs that the students participated in during the summer learning experience.
So what an amazing springboard to be able to bring our scholars together to do arts projects and music projects over the course of the summer, both with community partners and with our amazing educators. Some of the highlights, there was a group of teachers who worked with their scholars to use art to examine how they can transform the Huff neighborhood. And the students used painting on top of photographs to imagine the things that they wanted to see in their community, and brought that to community leaders to say, this is what we want our world to look like. And what an amazing opportunity to give voice to students, to say, this is what we see and this is how we want to change it, and we're going to express ourselves that way. Our music students having the opportunity to pick up an instrument after a year and a half. Because what people may not realize is that typically it's in 4th grade when you first have an opportunity in music class to pick up an instrument. It's developmentally appropriate. 4th graders who came of age during the pandemic missed that opportunity. So by having a program that addressed that over the summer, kids were able to pick up an instrument and successfully play over a very compressed period of time with some amazing educators. Truthfully, this is really geeky. The thing that excited me the most about that program is I was watching the students put their eyes on the conductor. You can teach technique, you can improve technique, but being able to create that communication where they know where to look, how to follow the cues is priceless. And having that level of excitement, the parents who came out and were saying, we're going to do this in all of our schools, like, yeah, we're going to do this in all of our schools. This is going to be a reality, and we're going to do it. It may happen fast in some schools, slower in others, based on how we build community partnerships and the skill sets that are available on day one versus where we are at the end of the year. I can't help but think about where we're going to be in 3 years.
No.
Today's 6th grader when they're taking these programs and they've been doing it for 3 years and they're in 8th grade, what an amazing thing we're going to see. The leadership we'll see from them in their buildings, and then where they're going to go when they choose their high schools, and forward and forward. And as far as I'm concerned, there's only one direction, and it's forward.
Of course. I mean, one of the things that was amazing is the marching band at John Marshall.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of those students had never picked up an instrument, and within 4 to 6 weeks, they were able to not only play, but also march.
And we have this vision that we're going to continue that program every summer, and it's my hope. And I'm dreaming here. It's my hope that we'll do a unified camp for all schools, and then part 2 of that camp will be your individual school.
Nice.
So that that we'll have our CMSD Marching 100 that works for multiple schools, but we also have each school having their own marching band.
Well,
So-
it is okay to dream, right?
That's the most important thing, and I think that's one of the things that the arts in general really fulfill for us in our humanity. It is the place where we dream. It's the place where we imagine. It's the place where we push the boundary and say, what if? What if this? What if that? And giving students and schools the flexibility and the opportunity to create dream spaces as part of the curriculum. Of course that's great for kids. Of course that's great for society. Of course that's great for humanity.
Well, so let's just talk about that. I mean, obviously school is about teaching the core subjects, but, art is so important too, because it's helping to teach the whole child and give them social emotional learning as well.
Absolutely, and I think that one of the things that we as a nation have done ourselves a disservice is by referring to art and music as not being core. They are essential. Anybody who spent time in the pandemic, and we all have, we lived for Netflix. We lived for those podcasts. We lived for music. The creators helped us get through this. And we all have that innate ability. We are all creators. Whether you curate your life by creating beautiful images around you and great music, or you're the one who's writing the music, having those fundamental skills as part of your core education is essential and lifts up what you're doing. And it's like when you read a good novel, you're entering into the lives and the minds of another person in a safe way that lets you have that experience. There's no reason we shouldn't be making this a centerpiece of all of our core.
But it's also improving attitudes and moods, attendance, and grades. I mean, kids live for this. Some kids live for this. This is their whole reason from going to school, is to participate in the arts and then do the rest of the stuff, right?
I totally agree, and it's for me, it's the arts. But for me, it's also very important that we have enough programs that kids can find their tribe. Whatever it is that I feel connected to, that opportunity is available to me in school, and that gives me that extra impetus, that extra thing that hooks me in and keeps me going. Whether that's sports, art, music, theater, dance, drama, the creative writing club, the newspaper club, whatever club it is, whatever program it is, as long as we're hooking you in, we can get you here.
I know that, we talk about the pandemic and we obviously want this to be over, but a part of the pandemic that came out of this was the pandemic dollars, the federal dollars that the federal government is funneling to schools to help with boosting up the education. Can you just talk about how these pandemic dollars are really helping to boost this arts education?
Absolutely. The pandemic dollars have really been a game changer, and it's part of the CEO's big bet for our district. A really concrete example, the district has provided well over $12,000 of consumable art supplies to every single art teacher in the district. That is a game changer because it's providing more than adequate tools for every student to be able to use a variety of artistic expression at every single school. We are putting a basic band kit in every single K-8 building so that from day one, we know that kids will have access to these instruments. Now, of course, we may have to get, school X may need 2 more trumpets because they have 2 more trumpet players, but I want that problem. I want to solve that issue instead of we need 12 trumpets. So making sure that everyone has that basic startup kit so everyone can start from the same place gets right to the core of equity, gets right to the core of doing what we're trying to do as a district, which is to have a better, fairer, more just system of education.
That's right, and I am excited to see all the artwork and the music that will come from this and just see these kids' smiling faces as they're doing it.
I am with you because I think that what we're going to see is going to blow our minds.
Wonderful. Well, Jeffrey, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much.
I'm Darielle Snipes with the CMSD News Bureau, and I am here with Executive Chef Tim Wright with the CMSD School Nutrition Department, and he is going to talk to us about some exciting things on the menu for kids this year. Hi, Chef.
Hey, it's nice to meet you. Thanks for coming down to our kitchen.
Anytime. So you guys are doing amazing things here in the School Nutrition Department, and you have some exciting new items on the menu for kids this year. And one of them is dumplings. Can you talk about how dumplings got on the menu?
Sure, like you said, one of the new exciting items that we have is an Asian-style chicken and vegetable dumpling in a whole wheat, whole grain wonton wrapper. You know, a little too technical, but
No, but the whole wheat, that makes it healthier, right?
Right, and it's something that we have to introduce to all the meals to make sure the students are eating a balanced diet. One of those things is whole grains we have to make sure is included in every item that we serve.
And so talk to me about the process, because it's not something you just throw on the menu and say, here, eat this. The kids actually have a say in what goes on the menu, correct?
That's right, and there's a lot of care taken. Vendors approach us all the time with new items that they'd like to introduce us to that they may be using in other districts. And things that are popular, they make sure we see them because we're such a large district. So once they go through the procurement process and they make an appointment and they see our procurement manager, and then we have a team that sits and look at all the new items, and then we select one. So we selected the Asian dumplings. We wanted to try something new. So after we sample them and make sure it's something that we can replicate in our kitchens with the different sets of equipment and things that different schools have. So then we do a taste testing with area supervisors, managers, and people that work in our department. And then after they get the green light, then we go to a student testing, and we'll test a grade school on the east side, a grade school on the west side, a high school on the east side, a high school on the west side. And we try to hit all those different little pockets of neighborhoods to make sure there's a balance of tastes that are being recognized by what the students like.
So let's be honest, kids, their taste buds, a little bit different than adults, and they can be a little bit picky. So how did the dumplings go over?
They went over well, and this is something that we're doing different for high school, because high schoolers are very in the know about what they want to eat now. And also, they don't want to eat like they did when they were in grade school. They want to say, I don't eat in grade school anymore. So this is something more upscale we're trying to do for the high schools to make it different for them.
Okay, well, and this is something that can be duplicated at home. So show us how we can make this at home, because, you know, my daughter does love dumplings, and I try to make them at home. I don't know if I'm successful at it. So show me, please.
So there's a lot of ready-made products in the supermarket now that you can find. So this one is like I said, chicken and vegetable. And it's a pre-made dumpling, and we cook them from frozen for this recipe. And I have two methods that we can show today. One is using a bamboo steamer that you would set on top of a pot of boiling water. And this is something like you'd see in one of the Asian dim sum restaurants. So we'll line up the dumplings in there, and then we'll steam them in there. And the idea with the steam, they cook a lot more quickly than they do if you put them in the oven or in a skillet, because the steam surrounds the product and it cooks more quickly.
So not a lot of people might have this. So how much does something like this cost if someone wants to get this at their house?
I think when I bought this was like 10 to 15 bucks.
That's cheap.
Down in Asia Plaza, those little markets that they have, you can find a bamboo steamer. And I use it for other things too, not just dumplings, but also vegetables or steaming fish and things like that.
And if someone doesn't have it, how can they do the dumplings without one?
So that's the second way that I'm going to show you.
Okay.
In a skillet, we'll spray it with some pan spray. Well, let's just go ahead and get started.
Let's get
then.
started. You got it.
So I use a little bit of pan spray to keep them from sticking after we line them up in the skillet.
Okay.
So for this recipe, I'm just going to do 6 dumplings in each.
And so when you do taste testing with the students, what is the percentage you're looking for in order for it to get on a menu?
Probably like 60% pass ratio, you know, depending on the different student populations. And some things would be more popular for younger students, and some things might be popular for, you know, the older students. And it's usually just a thumbs up or a thumbs down as the students are leaving the cafeteria after they eat, and ooh, I hated that, or it tastes terrible, or yeah, I really like that, I want to try it again.
So no critiquing. I need a little bit more salt. You're not doing
Right,
that.
no. But what we do ask, like when we featured this, we were at a school, at the different schools that we featured it, when we first kicked it off, we asked them how they liked it and the schools that they liked it. And then we have a board up and we ask them other Asian things they may like, lo mein, fried rice, things like that. So the next 2 things I'm going to sample recipes for would be lo mein and also a fried rice, because those 2 things were most popular from what the students would
So
want.
once you put it in there,
So then I'll put the lid on, and then over a pot of boiling water, and this is going to take about 8 minutes.
Okay, that's fast.
So we'll check that recipe, or check that when it's cooking. And actually, this is also called pot sticker. You may have known it by before also. So let me just get a little water. I'm sorry, Dario.
No, you're fine. Let me move
My
out your
back
way.
to the camera. I apologize.
No, you're fine. Oh, so that's a quick way to steam it as well.
Yeah, so I'll just put a little bit of water on there, and then I'll put the lid on. So they're known as pot stickers because once the water cooks off in them, after it's steamed, the water will cook away, and it'll form a nice brown crust on the bottom, and sometimes they'll stick to the pan. That's why they're called pot stickers. But the flavor's in the brown, so once that gets nice and caramelized on the bottom, it tastes really good.
Now, aren't they also called dumplings as well?
Dumplings, pot stickers, yep. Generally speaking, if they're deep fried or fried in a skillet, they would be pot stickers, and steamed like this, it would be more considered a dumpling.
But they're both delicious.
Yes.
The nutrition department has been amazing through the pandemic. I mean, you guys were on the front lines, never stopped serving children and families throughout the pandemic. I mean, when you were told that the schools were shutting down, you pivoted immediately to make sure that kids were fed.
That's right. Our managers, area supervisors, the people that I work on a daily basis with were on the front lines of this pandemic from the beginning. We served hundreds of thousands of meals to needy families in our neighborhood and the surrounding area that we took care of throughout the pandemic. And these ladies and gentlemen were troopers throughout it all. Kept their head up and kept going to work and feeding their kids, is what they call them, their kids. They take ownership over the students that they feed on a daily basis. You can feel the love that they give to the students that they feed.
And because of funding that CMSD received from the federal government, it wasn't just our kids, it was any child under 18 that needed a meal could come to a school and get a meal.
Right, and we kept sites open that were, maybe not as popular, or they're off the beaten path, because we didn't want to turn anyone away. So in pockets of neighborhoods where it may be considered a food desert, the school is the only place that someone could come to get a meal. So that was really important for us.
It was, and you guys did a great job.
Yeah, it means a lot that we were able to do that.
And so even though you had the meal sites at the schools, I mean, you guys did so much more with fresh produce to make sure that people were fed during this time.
Yeah, we did a lot more on a broader scale with dairy boxes, fresh fruits and vegetable boxes. Michelle Obama's program with Pass the Love, I did a little thing for them on one of the cooking shows locally. But yeah, we were constantly busy and giving out tons of food, not just what we fed the students and families from our kitchens, but it was also out in the community where we're giving away boxes of food as well.
So, I mean, now that the kids are back in school full time, you guys have pivoted back to pre-pandemic almost with the food, in terms of food, correct? Food.
That's right.
Distribution.
That's right. And it's a lot less cumbersome for us to be able to feed the students this way, rather than trying to force a fit to make sure that things were ready for people to take home and knew how to cook them and make them at their house. It's easier for us to have the students come through like we're used to feeding them on a daily basis, and to provide the nourishment that they need that way.
And how many new things would you say you have on the menu this year for students?
Pre-pandemic, we went through the testing process like I had talked to you about, and we had a hot honey sloppy joe. That hot honey is a popular flavor right now, like sriracha and things like that people are really into. Macaroni and cheese, we actually sampled a macaroni and cheese. Nashville hot nugget.
Nice.
So all these things the students had approved pre-pandemic, so they were all queued up to start, and then wham, the pandemic came and it shut everything down, so we had everything ready to go. So we had all those things ready and lined up to go when we reopened now. So
this is not the food that I ate when I went to school. I mean, I had hamburgers, cheeseburgers, hot dogs, and a chicken sandwich. That was pretty much it. I mean, why is it so important for CMSD Nutrition Department to have these restaurant level meals for our students? I mean, I'm not mad at it. I think it's great, but this is really cool.
Well, one thing is we like to stay on trend with what we serve to the students that we provide for. So when I was young and up and coming, people didn't see things like they do now. Some of these fast casual restaurants, you customize it yourself. I want this sauce, I don't want that thing, I want some of those. So we're trying to get to a point where we're able to replicate some of those items in our kitchens to be able to provide for the students what they want, because that's what they want. They want new and tasty things like that. So.
And they're healthy. I hear something sizzling, so let's check it out.
Yeah, we're getting to the pot sticker part. And see how they're starting to develop a little bit of brown on the bottom there.
Yeah. Looking
So we
good.
add just a
Need
little
more
more
water.
We don't want too much brown.
No, no. So
we'll
how do
let
you know
that
when
go
they're
just
done?
a little bit longer. For this recipe, this particularly needs to be cooked to 165 degrees of an internal temperature. So I'll use my probe thermometer to check the internal temperature to that to be sure that it's cooked correctly.
And so what if you don't have one at home? How can you tell?
If you don't have one, I recommend you get one.
Okay.
Because there's no other way to make sure, especially for chicken, it's a potentially hazardous food, and if it's not cooked to the correct temperature, it can make people sick.
Of course.
So get a probe thermometer, preferably digital. It's easier to read, and it's more precise.
Okay. And then let's see how these are doing.
So these are doing pretty good. So we'll check these once it's gone for about 8 minutes. I haven't checked my watch in a minute, so we'll have to check and see.
Not a problem. I mean, I think it's great. 8 minutes. I mean, it can be on the plate within 10. I mean, I know kids get home and they're starving. So this is something,
Right.
instead of going for the chips, they can go for this in 10 minutes.
Right, we'll take care of that for them, no doubt.
So chef, you know, a lot of people when they have dumplings or any type of Asian food, it's accompanied with some type of sauce, usually soy sauce. But you and the staff have been very conscientious about sodium count, because soy sauce has a lot of sodium. So what are the alternatives to soy sauce?
So when you're at the market, you can look at the different sauces. A lot of them do have a lot of inherent sodium in them because of the way that they're made. So pick the one that's most suitable for you and your diet. For the students that we serve, we are regulated to make sure that we only use, so many milligrams of sodium per student per day. So we reached out to a manufacturer that makes a lower sodium orange sauce that we're in the process of testing now. Because another thing that students said that they wanted was orange chicken.
Oh.
So I'm going to take a play off of that and use this orange sauce. And if it's successful as a dumpling dip, then we can also use it to do a chicken dish. So we can cross-utilize that same ingredient for 2 different recipes.
Great, but you also have this ginger sriracha. Is that something
That's something I brought special for you because I knew you liked sriracha. So
Well, I'm gonna try it because I like sauce. A couple of my friends call me saucy because I like sauce on everything. So I will try it.
I can see you being saucy for sure.
But yeah.
So again, in the aisle, like I was in the grocery this morning, and they have a bunch of different sauces available. So pick one that suits you best for what your diet may be for sodium or whatever.
And this one's a little spicy. I don't know if kids will like that. It's too spicy. Well,
Yeah,
the younger ones might not like it,
Yeah.
but
So,
it is delicious.
Yeah, we'll let them try and then let them tell us. And if this isn't a popular dish, it won't last. So we'll replace this with something else. We always want to be innovative and new and bringing things that the students want. If they don't want it, I don't want it.
That's right.
So.
Well, that's great. Well, you are doing a great job, and thank you so much for giving us these tips to how to make dumplings at home,
Sure thing. Thank you.
or pot stickers, whichever one you want to call them.
Tomato.
The start of the 2021-2022 school year will be the third year changed by the COVID-19 pandemic. This is the first time since March of 2020 that students are back for in-person learning 5 days a week. Some of our families may have concerns, even some anxiety about sending their children to school. To help our children and caregivers cope with this burden of the pandemic is Bill Stencil. He is the Executive Director of Humanware, Social and Emotional Learning for the district. Well, welcome, Bill.
Thank you.
So a lot of kids, this will be the first time that they've returned to in-person learning 5 days a week since March of 2020, going into the school buildings. Some of our students were remote the entire year, some also did the hybrid. But what are our educators doing to get kids reacquainted with each other this school year?
Well, I think the first thing we have to do is talk about having patience and grace with our young people. And our adults, because of the big change of coming back to school. And we want to make sure that everyone knows we have things available. Our school psychologists, our school nurses, our school counselors, as well as our community agencies are available to help with the severe mental health issues. But I think the everyday things really comes down to being able to listen and use student voice and what's bothering you. And as I said, give grace, because there will be issues that will cause problems. And I think our staff reassuring our young people that it's safe and going through the health protocols with them and letting them know that those have been put into place so they are safe.
So this pandemic obviously has been tough on all of us, and especially our mental health. What is the district doing to support our students' mental health?
Well, the first thing that we did, we had all of our school psychologists trained in helping schools open up, and they can work with their buildings to help create an atmosphere for reopening. And the atmosphere that is so important is that we aren't minimizing all the time they've been off, and we lend voice to both our scholars and our staff on what have you been going through, what kind of issues have you been addressing. And just giving voice often helps, but if it's more severe, as I mentioned, having all of our resources available to our teachers and our school staff, from internal to our external partners, to come to things quickly and help out where necessary. And we're also making our staff aware that mental health issues could be more prevalent, and that awareness is important. So they're looking for issues that may be there that our young people are struggling with.
And so some families and some children might have a little bit of uneasiness about returning to the school buildings, but they're doing it each day. But what advice could you give their families on how to cope?
I think the first thing, we have to make sure that our young people know that they're going to be safe. And we have to talk about what safety protocols are put into place, and that there are people to help them out if they need it. There are people to go to. Once again, as I mentioned, their voice, or what things are bothering you, what things could be of assistance. How can we help you is the real adjustment that we need to make. And having that patience to know that it's going to take some time. I think in addition to that, creating some consistency, creating some routine. When we're out as long as we were, 18, 19 months, we have to create all new routines again. They had to create a new routine for the remote learning. Now coming back, another new routine, and helping them get that consistency and filling that routine so they know what's next. People always want to know what's next so they're prepared for it. So when you talk through those routines, as our staff will do with their young people, at 9 o'clock we'll do this, at 9:30 we'll be doing this, that they know what to expect. They know when transitions are happening. They know that when they go to a different classroom, that it's still going to have social distancing appropriateness of that, and that folks are going to be using masks and washing hands on a regular basis.
And would you say it's also good to have that type of routine at home as well?
Absolutely. The more routine, the easier it is to fall into change, so that things are happening on a regular basis. I would hope that our families are doing the same thing. And when I talk about routine, what time they go to bed at night, what time they get up, are they having a breakfast, what time does the bus get there, everything laid out in a routine. And I might suggest that they write those things down, post them on the refrigerator, that everyone puts everything on that refrigerator, but so the young person can look and say, oh, I've got about 10 minutes and the bus will be here. So it's right there for them to see it.
So our youngsters, our scholars, may not be able to communicate effectively what they're going through or how they're feeling just because they're children. So what indicators should a parent or an educator look for to realize that that child is anxious about something?
Usually it is major change. Something is happening. For example, a child that was very outgoing is now withdrawn to some degree, or an individual that was really strong in math or reading and now may be struggling. For particularly our young people, is being in tune to their complaints about illness. I have a stomach ache today, I can't go to school. My head hurts, I'd like to stay home. And we need to be aware of that and know that that could be a sign that I'm not ready to go to school, or I might be afraid to go to school. So I think major change, eating habits, sleeping habits, friends as they change, grades, and then noting when they're not feeling well, and helping them through that. Do we need to take your temperature? Should we make an appointment at the doctor? Things like that that will help them cope with what's going on. Because as you mentioned, being children, they cope differently often than we do, and we want to be in tune to that.
And so what should a parent or educator do if a child is exuding these type of symptoms, crying for help that they may not want to go to school?
The resources that we have at our schools would be extremely helpful. So I recommend that if parents are anxious themselves or their child is, that they have a connection with the school, either with their classroom teacher or the principal. Being COVID, we can't just drop in on a school, but making an appointment and sharing what you're seeing, and then taking advantage of the resources. We also have from our nurses our COVID hotline that they can get in touch with as well. And we have our rapid response desk, crisis response, that if a child is in crisis, the principal can let our rapid response coordinators know, so then we can follow up with resources and assist that child in whatever crisis they're in.
And then what if it's the parent that is having the anxiety? What can a parent do to make sure that they feel okay or are adjusting?
I would suggest first, and Eric has done a great job of communicating, get back and see the things he's put out that share what those safety precautions are. Also, contacting the school, and as I mentioned, getting an appointment to make sure that the school is utilizing all those safety precautions. And just sharing your concern. It may be a legitimate concern that only that parent has, and so if they share it, it can be addressed by the school.
And so obviously these are tough times. This is the third school year where we're dealing with a pandemic. So what's the best advice that you could give families as they're trying to deal with going to school and COVID?
I put at the top of my list patience and grace, and I think that is so important. Controlling your emotions, because you are a model to your child. So if you're having extreme difficulties, they pick up on that as well. I would suggest that they minimize watching the news, because it can scare a child. When you're speaking with children, using age-appropriate language so they can understand what's happening. Letting them know and assuring them that they will be safe and that the adults will do as many things as possible to make sure they're safe. And to observe. I think it's very important for all of our adults to look and listen, and then share with hope and share with honesty, and share with kindness, because we are not all sure of what everyone else is going through. So the more we can share with kindness and listening to other people, the better off we'll be.
Well, that is some great advice. Bill Stensel, thanks for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We have animal science, plant science, and small industrial power.
Nursing assistant, dental assistant, exercise science, criminal justice, fire EMT.
Biomedical, pre-engineering, video game design, recording arts, graphic design, and also film.
Automotive collision repair, CAD, welding, and CNC, and we also have our building construction program in that academy.
We have hospitality and tourism, marketing, accounting, and then of course you got culinary art.
Interior design.
We offer the environmental sustainability, aerospace, civil engineering, and architecture.
Marketing or operations or finance.
Our students are engaged in the classroom and they can connect their actual career pathways to real-world experiences, which will give them an advantage when they leave high school to go straight into the workforce and earn a livable wage.